Thank you all for being here. It's great to see you all. We had a very short call earlier because Eric can't do this time. One, because it's a bit late European time, and he has, a social life, unlike me. But he did say that. So we had a little call that a few people on here came to earlier, which was just a bit of a catch up, and he gave me a list of the things that he said he wanted me to talk about. So I shall talk about those. Firstly, before I forget, would people buy Exercism swag? So things like my t-shirt, and probably an Exercism cap because I need a collection. I've got one, and laptop stickers and other such things.
Stickers, definitely.
And
stickers always.
So like swag, like hoodies and stuff, and t-shirts, and hello Ben, and yeah, and then would people pay a premium for it as a way of supporting Exercism? And would those of you who are like maintainers, which you probably all are, think that having like a swag discount that was like us charging at cost was a nice benefit? That's an open question to everyone just to get us started while the stragglers arrive.
I'm not really a swag person, but I could totally see it playing well across the interwebs.
Do you have laptop stickers, Eli?
No,
I mean,
I can't decide one, so I usually blank out brands. Sorry, I got some.
I think we've had the question a few times.
Yeah, well, maybe something that's not too obtrusive. So like nothing like big, like Exercism, but like something small on a sweater. It's always nice to wear.
Excuse me. Yeah, cool.
I'd pay extra if I could get the little devil icon back.
So we're thinking of having. So I'm going to talk about this a bit more today, actually. But we're thinking of having like some sort of badges and things as in part of V3. I'll talk about more in depth about what that means in a bit. But one of the things that I think we mentioned ages ago is the idea that you might have like a V1 badge for those people who were here in V1, which would be like a little badge with the old original devil logo on there. So we might do some, I don't know, legacy swag if there was a demand for it, but I can offer you a virtual computer badge, which is, sort of cooler than swag, really.
If that's all I can get, I'll take it.
I was just going to say I'm super pro swag in all ways. So.
Okay, awesome. So just, as a thought of lots of people using Exercism, a way that people can contribute to the running costs of Exercism, that might be a way that sort of totally doesn't get in the way of the product, but was a nice little way we could do a bit of fundraising.
Got an interesting little idea, actually, coming from the chat. So KOTP is saying about retro stuff, right? So you could do, if somebody was around in V1, you could do like an 8-bit version of the logo or something, nice. Or something like that. That'd be cool. I also quite like the idea that you can get like laptop stickers for tracks. So when you complete a track, you get that laptop sticker unlocks, and then you can choose to buy it. And then also similar things for like if you're a mentor that hits certain thresholds or a maintainer or something. Yeah, 100%. I think the way I'm thinking about it right now, just to fill you guys in kind of like some of the V3 thinking, is that basically we have all these practice exercises, and I guess completing them all is a big deal. Mm-hmm. So that's something that should be something you strive for, plus be rewarded at the end of it. We could also do each of the exercises has got an icon that Nicole made painstakingly before we had an issue where all of the SVGs then got deleted from a hard drive. So we have all of the icons for all of the exercises in one PNG format that can never be replaced. Back up with second hard drives. Hard drive failure hurts. So yeah, but we could have like laptop stickers and things per exercise as well. So if you really love Bob, that could be your laptop sticker thing. So that was my starting gambit while people arrived. I've got a bit of a cough. I don't think it's anything bad. That's a dangerous thing to say now. I've got
Corona.
I think I've just eaten and got a bit of coffee post-eating cough, but excuse me if I cough. So I'm Jeremy, for those of you that don't know me. I'm co-founder at Exercism. We also have Tyab on here, who's doing the UX for V3. And we've got Nick, who's got the Exercism logo well put together next to her face, who's our head of product. So those are 3 people who appear on the staff page, so I'll introduce them. And then we have loads of contributors on here who are awesome. We have people who are very long-term established contributors, and we have some total newbies as well. So welcome to everyone. People normally drop in and out of this as well. If you don't have a working microphone, feel free to type in the chat on the side. I normally try and pick things up as I go. I hope this cough goes away. So my plan for today, this should last about an hour, so we've got 50 minutes. My plan for today is to give a quick update, mainly on what Eric's been doing over the last week, because he asked me to, and he's been doing some useful stuff. And also to put DJ on the spot and get him to show some of the stuff he's been working on as well, specifically what he just spent a load of time on Saturday working on. But then also just to answer any questions or talk about anything that everyone's got for V3, and then if time allows after that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the reputation system, because it's something we haven't really talked about, and I'm starting to think about it loosely at the back of my mind. So seeding stuff in all of your heads, so you can come up with some ideas, would be good. I've really started something with this swag conversation in chat. Good. So firstly, I'm really sorry for the coughing. Firstly, Eric has been working on doing a lot of documentation improvements for V3. A lot of it was based on what Mike May put together in an issue. DJ, you're in charge of finding everything I'm talking about and posting links to things in chat. So Mike May put an issue together after he completed a C# exercise with some feedback on what he found easy and hard and everything else. Which was a brilliant issue. I would love everyone to do the same as you're doing exercises or working on V3. Like, please feel free to put issues up that are like, these things sucked, this was really unclear, this was really hard, because that's incredibly useful. So in response to those points, there were like 20 or 30 points, I think. I put a video together, which was the anatomy of a concept exercise video, which I recommend watching if you haven't. It's a sort of shortish, I think it's like 10-15 minutes of what each of the files in a concept exercise does, its purpose, how to piece them together. So that was sort of aimed to give a bit more of an overview, because a lot of people don't enjoy sitting and reading the many paragraphs of text that I've written, which is totally understandable. So videos seem to work better. But then what Eric's been working on, I know other people have been helping as well, is to go through all of Mike's points and really fill out the documentation a lot more. So try and clarify everything, try and give really clear instructions on everything. We've cross-linked that video everywhere within those docs as well, so hopefully people find it. One of the things I mentioned in that video and that we found is that people who understand what the files should be used for and how they should be used have much more enjoyable code review processes, because we sort of don't end up ripping all their hard work to shreds and get them to start again. And also it's a lot lower burden on the actual reviewers, who are often our more senior maintainers whose time is really split between a million things. So highlighting those things and adding clarity early for the person doing their first exercise has been something that we've been working on. One of the big material changes to that is that before, in concept exercise issues, we were long form putting out a whole load of text that explained what each of those files does. One of the things Eric's been working on is creating one canonical concept exercise document that explains everything in great depth. And then all of the concept exercise issues are now going to just be linking back to those things. So he's put a PR in that's been updating loads of templates across the various repos, and the issues themselves could probably do with someone going through them on your track and just updating them to a newer template. but we realized that the level of churn on those docs was getting really high. So we decided the duplication across multiple places, while it was good in a way because it meant that someone could just look at one file to get everything, we were literally ending up with hundreds of files that had duplication that we were having to update constantly. So yes, that's the main stuff that Eric's been doing. It's been like a week of just going through and really trying to improve stuff. If you find things in the documentation that's still unclear, please like PR them. Just literally in the GitHub editor, just changing something and putting a PR in allows us to just edit it or iterate on it. Or feel free just to open an issue if you don't know how to improve something, but something feels unclear to you. And if you do want to put just massive issues together, the whole load of like, this stuff was unclear, that's really valuable as well. There's loads of links to the stuff I've just talked about inside to Ty and DJ. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions on the docs? Anything that's on anyone's mind as a general thing where we could improve it, things like that?
Yeah, quick summary, I guess. So we broke that out so that the concept exercise issues are going to be chiefly focused on the language specific things for that issue. And I guess the second question was, do we have a canonical issue that incorporates these changes thus far, or is it still somewhat in flight?
So yeah, the aim is that anything generic is put into when someone new joins on a video call, all of the faces just shift on my screen and it's very disorientating. Hello, whoever just joined that was new, you very much confused me there. Yeah, the aim is that all of the sort of canonical information now just appears in this one file, and that the track specific concept exercise template, that is a mouthful, is mainly focused on what is specific to the tracks. And really, but it's only specific in terms of things like file names and things, really. Like there might be a few little bits about our track does something this way, or I don't know, the Rust one might have like, don't just import every cargo you can find, like things that are counterintuitive maybe to how you would develop things in that language normally. But yeah, I think we want those templates to be changing as little as possible, and a canonical doc that they point to be changing more, to the point where if you've got loads of stuff that's track specific to you, it might even be worth creating your own sort of concept exercise in Rust, for example, doc, and then have your concept issues pointing back to that. What we do want to avoid, excuse me, what we do want to avoid is people having to jump between like 100 different documents to try and make sense of anything, because that was one of the big sort of criticisms we got, that is really confusing and it's really overwhelming. So keeping things in one or two places that are clear and that don't have overlap, and then having these videos that hopefully just offer like a general higher level introduction to stuff has been the aim. You go.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out that I made an issue, and we cross-promoted this in maintainers for on Slack. So if you run a track, we recommend you just copy that post, because it has all the links to your track specific documents as well as the general ones. I also created the same content on my tracks on JavaScript and TypeScript and pinned it to the repository, so that when people actually come in through GitHub, we've had a few people who came in through GitHub and not through Slack. They can also get started and get all the information right there, as opposed to you spending, like a day explaining to them where everything is, because even I have to look up all the documents every single time again.
And
yeah,
sorry, go on, Jeremy.
I was just going to say, I posted a link to the thing DJ's talking about in Slack, the chat channel, day before yesterday, maybe yesterday, which is, yeah, that link there, thanks, which is something that a few other tracks have then put into their thing. So it's just a pinned issue with a load of useful links, and changing the channel topic to say, please go and look at this pinned thing was a good idea as well. Eli, what are you going to say?
Thanks, that answered it. I was just confirming that was in the JavaScript, the current JavaScript track where those issues were pinned.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the goal though is that a main or someone contributing who just jumps in should only need to really jump between concept exercise issue and the reference document.
Exactly that.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the big changes as well in this week is that I pinned a video onto Exercism itself. When you log in for the first time or use Exercism the first time since I did that, you now get this video that sort of says, sorry, we're really busy and so everything's a bit slow. But in there, I sort of put a call out for if you want to be a maintainer, if you want to be a mentor, sign up to a mentor, if you want to contribute, please email. And we've had 6 people email in the last 2 days saying they want to contribute to V3. So my general route then is to say, here's the Slack invite, go here, introduce yourself in introductions and say which tracks you want to help with for V3. And then I'm hoping at that point, one of you or the people, the maintainers, go and pick those people up and then put them in the right channel, say the right things to them, point them in the right direction. And having that initial pinned post that they can find in the channel, I think, is really valuable.
Yeah. And we have a request by some of the maintainers that if you read the message and you see a language named, even if it's in one of the comments on that thread by the user, please use it as one of the emojis so that other maintainers from that track can easily jump in if they haven't yet. It just saves quite some time if you haven't been on the Slack for a few days.
Yeah, really good. And I know lots of people as well had introductions muted because it was quite noisy. But if you could unmute introductions, that would be wonderful. Although I do understand it is a bit of a, it's not too bad, it's only 3 posts a day, and then it's mainly the threads, I think, where it gets a bit noisy. Yeah, lots of people had it muted. So I think that's what Eric's been doing and working on and will be helpful. So just focusing on getting all that right. Eric's also focusing on getting like a really wide breadth of basic exercises for F# and C#. So he's working on the first OOP exercise at the moment for classes. We've also got a nullability one that somebody else PR'd that he's just doing a bit of tweaking on. So he's just going to spend the next like 3 or 4 weeks focusing on just bashing out as many exercises as possible, really, that can then be ported across to other tracks. And then hopefully that means that the more junior maintainers who sign up, I guess, between now and when we launch are able to do that porting, and the more senior maintainers are able to be doing some of the more complex or language specific topics, which is, I guess, where there's less guidance. It's going to come down more to you as a maintainer understanding how all of those files work in greater depth. The other thing I'm going to keep banging on about is if you've not done an exercise yet, like the best way just to understand how all this works is just to make an exercise. The initial hump of like creating a concept exercise is high. Once you've got over that hump, creating a second, third, fourth is just coming up with a story and a bit of inspiration. But it's a lot more fun to do a second exercise than it is to do a first. So putting like a day aside, a day worth of time aside over however long, and getting that first exercise done and submitted and going through the code review process. And make sure you ask Eric to review that as well, because he can help you. But then it makes a really big difference understanding stuff when you're doing the next exercise. It makes it a lot more fun. And also it just helps other maintainers and other people in your track feel like that track's getting a bit of momentum. Good. So I'll open the floor if anyone's got any questions. Oh, have I frozen? Did I freeze then?
You're good. There's a bit of jitter.
Yeah, my computer froze. So yeah, I'll open the floor for a second in case anyone's got any questions about absolutely anything. And then I'll talk about more stuff after that.
I had a quick follow-up question. So for getting the exercises actually implemented, so Rust has 2 ported so far.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I remember a couple weeks or months ago, we were gonna send a broadcast to the larger community to contribute. And as a preparatory step, a track should have 20 issues created. Is that timeline, like, is that a hard deadline? Because I guess I've internalized, oh, I need to have 20 concept exercises fleshed out as GitHub issues before I actually start porting the rest of the concept exercise or creating concept exercises and closing those issues. But
So,
yeah, I guess.
yeah, it's a good question. So the reason we've not sent that out yet is twofold. So that email that goes out is going to be a call for people to help with a V3. And it's also going to be a call for people to come and try the research site. I'm waiting for final confirmation off our research partners in Chicago that they're happy for the site to go out. On the same time, because a lot of tracks don't yet have as many exercise issues as would be nice to have, I've sort of been holding off pestering the researchers to get them to give that sign off and just sort of letting things just gently be on hold and focusing on the other stuff at the moment. At some point that will shift and it'll be like, okay, let's do this. As soon as they come back to me saying, let's do this, hello if you're watching, then at that point I'll probably send it out like a week after that. So that would give everyone a week to do those issues. In terms of priorities, like the person that's always going to do the best job of doing stuff is you, whoever you are. Like if you're taking the time to watch this video, you're probably going to be, you know, one of the top contributors that are going to actually do stuff. So emailing lots of people and asking them to help is always going to be more hit and miss than just you all going and making some awesome exercises. So it's, I think investing in getting those issues on there is helpful. But it's a sort of, it's a balance between, oh, I've frozen again. Froze back.
Yeah, we're stuttering a bit.
I freeze on my screen as well, which is weird. I think it's just my computer freezing. I'm tempted to close something. I'm going to close Slack. So where was my flow? Yeah, so the balance between creating lots of issues and getting lots of people to contribute and actually just doing some of that work yourself to get it over the hump is a decision, I guess, that's a sort of personal one, like where you want to invest your time. But I guess a balance between them is the key thing.
Cool, thanks. That clarifies it for me.
Anyone else have any questions? About absolutely anything. You can ask questions about my hat.
Hi, can I have a question?
You can.
I had a pretty random question about tests. Oh.
So,
Okay, so we have two questions. I think there was just mentioning he also wants to ask a question.
I'm happy to wait. Do you go first?
Okay, you go, Mark. Thanks.
Okay. Quick question. So my track, we just built our test runner a week or so ago. I thought I need to know, is that just going to be on for V3 or also for V2? Because it's not going to work with the V2 track.
Yeah, just V3. So yeah, it'll just be, we will launch that with V3 or with the research experiment, where the research experiment totally sort of standalone exercises. So if you want to do the research experiment and feature in that, then you can put two exercises together which feature in that, which are effectively like V3 exercises. All of the V2 practice exercises will need to run with the test, work with the test runner. So there might be like changes to that needs to happen sometime between now and V3. I guess that's going to be like a track specific if you're using different frameworks and things. But yeah, it won't, nothing around testing will go live until V3.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Back to the question.
Okay. So, hi, my name is Susanna, and well, it's the first time that I'm connecting. So I'm going to take you up on the random questions.
Cool.
I was just wondering if, like, do you all know each other and have worked for a long time together on Exercism? Is there a lot of new people or not? Because just in general, because I'm really interested in contributing. I've done my first PR last week. and just was wondering what the flow is like and stuff. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, I've frozen. I froze again. Awesome, thank you. Sorry, my computer's really jittery. Welcome, thank you for your first PR and for joining. So there are people who have been here forever. So looking on this call now, you'll see KOTP. He has been here for literally ever. And there are other people who have sort of been big contributors, I guess, over the last 18 months since we launched V2. So DJ's been one of those. I think Ben has been around for ages. I think Mark's been around for a while. Like, there's a few people who are sort of the senior maintainers, who have, I guess, been around since V2 time. We have like a senior maintainer or two per track, generally speaking, and those people are sort of acting as the wise old folks. But we have a load of new people as well. Like, I think Eli, you're really new, aren't you? As a contributor, yeah.
Yeah, I started first using Exercism to learn Rust. That's actually how I heard of it. I met someone program at a Rust meetup and they mentioned this. So I'd heard about it a while ago, started working through V2, got through most of that track, and then just started contributing little mentoring notes from stuff that I ran into that was problematic while learning. And then I heard about the V3 effort and it seemed to really solve a lot of the learning problems and frustrations I was having. And so I started contributing to that because I felt like it's more guided there than just kind of, doing other things on like V2. But yeah, I'm a complete newcomer still. And like, I don't know the ropes. And so I found it very welcoming though.
So like, I think like the thing that we probably care about most as a community is welcoming people and being empathetic and like wanting to make this a really great place. That's at the heart of everything in Exercism. People come and go as contributors, and like that's totally cool. There's loads of mentors who like built like the original exercises for a track who have now left because they've got new jobs or got new lives or wanted to go and do something new. I don't know about new lives. It changed their lives. But yeah, so we've had this big sort of recruitment drive over. I'm just going to talk a lot about this because it's helpful for anyone watching this video who's new as well. But yeah, we've had this big recruitment drive for the last sort of 6 months to try and get lots of maintainers in because V3 is such a big step forward and we need so many new exercises to do that we've really wanted to get lots of people contributing. The hardest thing is just people coming into it, and it's a complex project. There's 150 repositories that make up Exercism. One of the reasons that we made V3 into this mono repo was so there would just be one place where everyone could see everyone's contributions to try and give people this like central starting place that everyone could learn from, rather than it being fragmented. And that sort of means that both the key contributors and also like people like me can just be a bit more present, whereas it's really hard for us to be present across 140 repos. So yeah, those are, I think that sort of answers your question. I mean, like finding people to buddy up with is awesome as well. I'm not sure what track you're doing, but like the senior maintainers in all the tracks are lovely people and sort of want people that they can help and that can help out with it. So finding the right person in there, if you like message me afterwards, I can happily point you to somebody that would be good for that. And also like feel free to ping Eric, especially at any point if you need help with anything tangible, because that is like literally his job. So yeah.
Cool, awesome. That's yeah. Now that I think about it, I'm not new because I actually used V1. I think that's when I found exercise and I used it for learning Haskell.
Nice.
Then I think I had a year-long break. When I came back, it was V2, and then I loved it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna help out a mentor with the tracks that I actually know things about. But then, yeah, so it's like I've heard of known exorcism for years, but then going into Slack and trying to help out, and I'm like, okay, there's so many people, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that's really hard is like it's hard to be a community and actually, you know, really be a community. You can call yourself a community, but if you've got 500,000 people signed up to your website, you know, you're not a community, you're a website with users. And how you turn that into finding a core group of people who are a community and feel like community, and where newcomers can come in and not feel like either it's overwhelmed with lots of people or there's like this barrier and they can't get past it. One of the things that, you know, one of the reasons we're doing these video calls is just to see faces, because actually that's like so much more human. And until 4 weeks ago, I had never seen the face of anybody on here. Like we'd never done video calls before. So, you know, even that's like, I think a big step forward to just welcoming people and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's exciting times. Johnny, I don't know how I'm pronouncing that. I saw you unmute. I don't know if you were wanting to ask something.
Yeah, just in relation to the previous question, I would think it would be helpful for new maintainers and people who want to get involved in V3 if we could be pointed to the respective quote unquote senior maintainers in each of the tracks, maybe pin like a message, a welcome message from them in the Slack channels. I know that's a little complicated because the messages get deleted after 1,000, I think, or whatever, 100,000 or something like that. But if we could have some way to have someone that we could go to, I think it would help us feel a little bit more like confident in that if we make mistakes, we have someone to help us and things like that.
And that's a great point. Oh, frozen again.
So we have a dedicated file for each track. It's in the P3 repo. It's a markdown file, and it will list all the senior maintainers that are actively involved with V3. That would be your normal starting point. But I definitely agree that we should link that in each single track. If you do pin and or save the message on Slack, you can always find it back. That's what we recommend Jeremy to do with the one in start here, because that one needs to be reposted every so often. And Sasha is always the one who reposts it. So we know your struggle, but there are some ways around it.
I think, yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think that's a really great point. I mean, I feel like we totally fail to be a community by the fact that we use Slack for it. I mean, like, I hate the fact that we use Slack as our communication tool. I think Slack's brilliant, but it's like it's such a barrier between somebody using our product in Exercism, which is supposed to be this community thing, and then somebody having to go and join this other thing and then talk. And then, so one of the things I really forever have wanted to get to is sort of having like these forums and these things much more built into Exercism. So, you know, you can say, I want to be a maintainer, and we can be like, great, here's, you know, everything you need to know. Here are the maintainers that you should talk to. You can ping them, we'll auto ping them for you, blah, blah, blah. Like, we're programmers, we can make stuff. But there's so many like challenges in that about how to get that right and how it becomes maintained and non-toxic, and, you know, building chat things is hard. The fact that Slack's real-time chat and also is like a nice sort of archive forum is really valuable and difficult to replicate. Otherwise, Slack wouldn't be a really successful product. So it's something that's like on my radar as something I would really love to get right. I think a really simple solution to what you were saying as well would literally just be to put a page on Exercism's website that is like a canonication of all of those. I don't know if that's a word, but I like it. A canonication of all of those V3 maintainer MD files, so that actually you can just in one place see a list of all of the maintainers. And then regardless of which track you come to or anything else, we can just point people straight to that page on Exercism itself. I feel like we don't sometimes use Exercism enough just to do this sort of thing. We don't need to use GitHub for it. We can actually just use our own product. But yeah, certainly, like, I don't know if you still want to know who your like senior maintainers are, but feel free just to ping the maintain channel and be like, yo, who's here? And at the very least, I'll reply and say, this person should be here.
I feel like a simple solution to this could just be when you sign up to be a maintainer for a track on the Exercism website, is just have a list of usernames that is controlled by whoever like updates the website, but just like a list of usernames that would be like, oh, hey, you can hit up these people and they're happy to help.
Yeah, I mean, the
That way,
problem is,
I feel like, sorry.
I was just going to say that the problem is at the moment you can't sign up to be a maintainer on the website. Like, and this is another massive breakdown. Like, you become a maintainer because you happen to speak to someone like me on email, or you happen to watch a video, and or you sign up to be a mentor and then you get invited to be a maintainer. Like, the whole maintainer's process is so detached from Exercism itself. It drives me mad.
Sorry,
But
I meant the mentor, not maintainer. I meant when you said
okay,
to be a mentor, you could say like, oh, here, these are the 3 people that you could contact for any information.
yes,
And then
got
if
it.
that person ends up becoming a maintainer, also they would have that information available to them. Otherwise, you'd have to like redo it again when they become a maintainer. But at least if they have that when they became a mentor, then it would be more permanent.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, we should do that. I think I would really like in V3. I mean, it's not going to be on day one, but at some point, that the whole signing up to be a maintainer and like that process of maintaining tracks is something that much more happens within Exercism as well, rather than it sort of being in this separate, detached world. Oh, I've gone jerky again. I'm back.
You're fine. Yeah, it's working.
So yeah, but yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do something like that. Thank you.
I also
I
feel
had a
like that will
couple.
help for initial onboarding as a mentor, because if someone says like I know this, I know how I would solve the issue, but I don't know how like quote unquote correct it is for the language or the semantics and best practices. So if they had someone to just check that by and say like how much do we need to impose, or what do I need to know in order to mentor this exercise, because I don't need to be an expert to mentor every exercise, then those people who are more senior in exercism and in the language would be able to just guide them in that way.
Yeah, totally. So one of the things that's going to change in V3 as well is that we're removing the hard distinction between student and mentor altogether. So this will become a graduated thing. Like, you'll be, as you're using Exercism, be like, oh, why don't you give feedback to somebody or give feedback on this exercise? And then once you've sort of given feedback on, and that will be a sort of semi-prompted friendly thing. And then once you've given feedback on an exercise or two, then it's like, oh, you know, you might want to join this mentor community or something. But we sort of want to really get away from like this 1% of people click on the I want to become a mentor button, because actually like 99% of people who use Exercism could probably mentor someone on something, because most people that use it are already programmers. So there's a whole load of like product and UX work to think about in how we make that sort of feel like a seamless transition from student to maintainer, and every like little step in the way. But that's a big part of what I think we need to achieve to be able to sort of bring people into this sort of mentoring flow and keep people mentoring without it being like, I commit my life to Exercism, I am now a maintainer. Yeah. Kat,
Yeah, so we did have a lot of. So Yoni just mentioned in the chat that the Slack channel we do have in the meantime is not appropriate for very specific questions, but we've actually had really good cross-track discussions about very specific questions in that channel. So basically, what happens a lot is that a lot of people will start with a very generic question, and then they will give the example, and then it turns into a very specific question, and it does get solved with knowledge across tracks, which is really nice. So you get for free, how do I approach this? What do I say? Why shouldn't I use the word you or your code or whatever? So definitely just do it.
Yeah. I think this is another example. Sorry, Kat, I will get to you in a sec. This is another example of like where channels suck for Exercism, because like so much of the like everything is about a mixture of like language specific stuff and like general mentoring advice and general like there's so many cross-cutting concerns that actually like being able to subscribe to topics and then a conversation being tagged with topics as it's evolving or whatever, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but you know, that sort of like conversation flow, rather than I am committed to the Ruby channel, I will only listen to things about Ruby. Like, it feels just so walled and unhelpful. But there's a whole obviously noise signal question thing. Kat.
So I had a couple of questions. Hopefully you can hear me. I've been the maintainer for the Factor track since V2 in 2016, which is a track that I've never had a lot of time to put into, unfortunately. But Factor is also a language that is very different to most other languages on Exercism. And so the first question I have is whether the online coding and specifically the Docker instances for all the languages will be a requirement for V3 to launch. And it seemed like that from the docs.
So they will be a requirement for a track to function in learning mode. So tracks that sort of don't make it to V3 in terms of like don't have enough exercises, don't have enough tooling, that sort of stuff, they will be still available, but they'll only be available in practice mode. Depending on whether you have the test runner or not will determine, basically purely the test runner determines whether the in-browser coding stuff works or not. But like the sort of worst case fallback is that somebody just goes back to almost a bit more like V1 mode for a track, where it was like a bucket of exercises and they can choose one and they can use the CLI and they can solve it and submit it and they can ask for mentoring and stuff still. But adding a test runner will give you in-browser coding support. That would just be like a Boolean. And then adding concept exercises, like 10, 20 of them, would get to sort of learning mode turned on for your track. That bit will probably make judgment calls on a per track basis, because I feel like I want to ensure that's a really good learning experience if we're going to offer it to a student. But the test run is just like a Boolean flag that you'll probably have some degree of control over as a maintainer.
Okay, thank you. And the other question was a little bit more basic, but the concepts folder in V3 reference concepts and then the long list of markdown documents, these concepts are global to all languages, right? So all the concept exercises in all language tracks have to pull from the same pool of concepts, right?
Not quite. So those documents are there as references to share knowledge between the tracks. So like if you had a weird language, I don't know how weird Factor is, but let's say it's really weird and it doesn't share any paradigms with any other language, that would be totally cool. You could just like build out your own set of V3 concept exercises, and effectively they would be totally standalone. If you were, say, Factor has functions, the aim would be that you could look in that functions document in the reference folder, and that you could find like some nice links or nice sort of things that talk about functions that you could then use as an inspiration for when you were making your own functions exercise. And that it would also list the other exercises that people have done about functions, so you can sort of grab that information as well. But that reference document is literally just reference. It's not intended to guide the tracks. It's just there for the tracks to use. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Cool. Do you have any more questions?
I don't.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, and thank you for your work on Factor. Do you think it's going to make it to V3? Are we going to get a test runner?
I really hope so. It's the test runner and the analyzer will be the easiest part because of how Factor is structured.
Okay.
Getting the exercises written is the hardest part right now. So
yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask a question about that to everyone. So Sasha, is Sasha still here? Yes. Can you speak, Sasha? Or are you silent?
I mean,
No,
he can speak, but he can't.
He can speak.
Right
He
now.
does have the ability, but not the mic. So Sasha has like led the Julia track over the last few months, done an awesome job. And one of the things he's done in the last week was run a hackathon to get people to contribute to the Julia track. Specifically, they built out a representer and got it all working, and probably are halfway on their way to an analyzer as well. but it coincides with something that I've been thinking about for a while, and other people have suggested bits of, which is, can we just pull everyone together, have a Exercism hack day on a Saturday, and just sort of try and break the back of a few of these tracks, be that sharing knowledge for tooling, be it like every track is going to get 5 basic exercises and every track's working on the same 5 exercises so we can share stuff or whatever. But also I feel like it's quite a good way to get communities involved. So Sasha was quite successful in like, just, I presume it wasn't a real world hackathon with what's going on right now, but he still managed to utilize enough of a community that there were like lots of video rooms, people were jumping in and out throughout the day and doing stuff. It feels like there are, there must be a few Factor developers out there that might all just get together for a Saturday afternoon Factor hackathon to make a load of exercises. So it's something I've been considering, is like, do we have like an Exercism global hackathon day where all of the tracks sort of sub out into their own little video calls or whatever, Slack rooms. Do people think that sounds like a good idea, a horrific idea? Does anyone want to say anything to that?
I think it's a great idea, to be honest.
Awesome. That is the sort of feedback I like.
I'll jump in. Yeah, I love the shared experience part. I think that's one of the binding factors that makes it really helpful. And I think the ability to share knowledge between more senior, less senior maintainers and kind of do that organic community building is huge. One of the challenges, I think, in the context of V3 is the proliferation of things. And I feel there's a maybe not as clear track for, that's the wrong word, not as clear pathway maybe for kind of funneling the community's efforts. And I think this is a general open source problem. I contribute in the Ember.js community. I think very similar problem. You have disparate groups and you have concentrated projects, but that also have different objectives. How do you best coordinate? That said, I think we could define, kind of a template for that interaction, and then, use that amongst individual tracks. And yeah, to Sasha's point, like reaching out to the Julia community. I mean, I think some of that is communities know best how to distribute contributor information. And so perhaps some of this isn't necessarily on Exercism hosting it, because it's a problem that'll be taken up by the individuals. But yeah, I feel a little bit of apprehension because I think I still am not like 100% on how to funnel the current work for myself. So maybe that insecurity is just being, pushed forward. But yeah, I think it's overall, like it would be fun. I think it's a great idea. I just have some practical reservations, I guess.
That's really helpful. I know what you mean about the direction. It feels like there's a huge amount to do, and because the on-ramp is so hard, my one concern is like getting someone to write a bit of software is something we sort of all get. We can be given a spec and write some software. Getting someone to write an exercise is actually like so much harder for us because most of us aren't educationalists, we're developers. And so trying to get 50 new people to all learn about an exercise in a day. I mean, on the flip side, we can say everyone spends half an hour watching this video, everyone spends an hour reading this docs, then you make an exercise. It might sort of be so almost militaristic in the way we could do it. It might work quite well. But channeling resources, understanding what to do, all of those things, I think are things that's where I lose sleep over V3. Yeah. Ben, you were going to say something ages ago. That's a good thing. You've muted yourself.
My mute button is being very finicky. I was going to say, I actually don't even remember what I was going to say because it was ages ago. So.
Okay, cool. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Thank you to everyone.
That's something.
It's a lot to volunteer time for this. So, to everyone who has pitched in, it's, very, very helpful. I think that some communities, they might find it, like I know with the Rust community, I feel like new people coming in and learning Rust are always excited to go and find things to contribute with Rust. I'm working on maintaining Emacs Lisp, and that community is not like that. So, to just say the least.
Yeah, there's a cultural layer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you to you as well, and thank you, as you say, to everyone.
So there was one more question earlier too.
Say again, sorry, did you?
Yeah, there was one more question earlier too from a few of the maintainers on Slack. The question was, we'll be able to use our own editor or choose our own editor once v3 in-browser coding goes live. And I responded with, I think it's the plan that editors will be like basically swappable per track, but maybe you want to comment on that.
Did they mean their own editor offline or their own editor in terms of?
Online.
Online. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll answer the question in case it gets misconstrued. The CLI isn't going anywhere, and you can use your own offline editor. To answer the question, so yeah, the user interface, the experience around solving and the in-browser coding will be consistent across tracks. Pretty much the only change I think will be in tracks is whether your track has a header file or not, because that just determines whether you have one file to edit or two. In terms of what the underlying technology is for each browser editor, we prototyped the research one with ACE, which is Cloud 11's browser editor. DJ is about to show you a spike he's done of something using Monaco, which is Visual Studio's editor. There's not a good editor that has like wide language support and does everything for everyone. So Monaco is brilliant if you're doing a Microsoft-based language or JavaScript or TypeScript. You get like fantastic auto-completion. However, it actively says it does not support mobile web browsers, which makes it not great. Even if there are ways to hack around that, it's not ideal. Something like ACE works really well for like millions of languages. That's a total exaggeration. For lots of languages, and has like syntax highlighting for all of those and stuff. But it's not got great auto-completion stuff out of the box for most things. So everything's got pros and cons. So I'm entirely happy to sub those editors out on a per language basis. I mean, obviously there's work there. And you know, we're probably not going to want to do 50 of them, but if there are 3 or 4 that support different languages, I don't mind we'll have a canonical one that we spec to, and then we can have, you know, other ones that we sub out adhering to the same spec. I wouldn't want a student to know they were changing browsers. So from a visual point of view, I'd want them to be the same, but that's fine. Yeah. Does that answer that, DJ?
Yeah, I think so. I will forward the video once it's online to anyone who asks this again. And I think it's a good answer. So the link I just posted is a playground I built last Saturday. Long story short, for the JavaScript track, I really wanted to get some feedback from people who were not as actively involved in V3 on the new JavaScript exercises, especially from people who are also in education or who actually don't really know JavaScript. So I basically built a preview playground from all the different components that we'll have in V3, except for the analyzer. That is a work in progress, but it will come. You can try it out as well. It allows you to run the exercises we currently have merged on master, and it will show you the introduction, the hints, including auto-completion. So one of the questions from one of the maintainers also came because they saw it had auto-completion in browser, and they were like, well, can we have this technology on Exercism everywhere? And so the short answer is we don't know yet, but we'll tell you. And Jeremy, of course, has all the time in the world to build.
There is an actual like protocol for
the language servers.
For autocomplete, where you can run a server that does autocomplete and it just works pretty nipply. So the key thing about this thing that DJ has put on is that the test runners are running in the browser. Now, obviously it's JavaScript, which makes this slightly easier. But if you like run the tests, you know, it's like it's instant clock feedback. So something that I'm excited about is the idea that we use WebAssembly and other such technologies to be able to do this across tracks, so that DJ, your background's really loud. Thanks. So that you can so that you can use WebAssembly to get your language's tests running in the browser. So you know the actual time is purely a compilation and execution time. I'd also quite like to do the same with analyzers. Representers we could do as well, where we work out a representation in the browser and then that sends that representation to Exercism's API to get feedback. So there's like, yeah, there's loads of cool stuff we can do. Hey, Job. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. Thank you, DJ. This is something that I think won't appear in other tracks because of the fact it needs to run in browser. The rest of you will have to play with this and enjoy it. But at some point, you know, in the next, I would like to think 6 weeks, we'll start to have some sort of preview where you can do this in your languages, and it'll be hitting a server, not running locally, but actually you can then go and play with some of that.
Yeah, and of course, please do the research if you haven't done it yet, because that is a preview of the preview of the preview, right? I'll just link it once more.
Thank you. So yeah, we'll be pushing this out properly, and when we push this out properly, like it hopefully will be everywhere. But like, use that, try it, have fun with it. It is quite a fun little project. Cool. That's taken us to 9 o'clock, which is our stop time. Does anyone have a last question before we disappear? No. Awesome. All right. Thank you all for coming. I really enjoyed that. It was lovely to see some new faces. Thank you to those of you who showed your face in the webcam, and everyone else who couldn't or didn't. You're still very appreciated. And as Ben said, thank you all for everything you're doing for Exercism. I posted on announcements the other day, we've just hit 1 million website visitors since we launched V2. We're closing in on 500,000 registered users. We're now at 1 million page views a month, and like 95% of Exercism happens in your terminal. So we've got some cool stats. I always think at the moment we launch V3, we'll probably increase all of that by an order of magnitude as well. So there's a lot of people that we're going to be helping building this. So thank you, everyone. Have a nice rest of your evenings or nights or days, depending on where you are in the world. And yeah, see you all soon.